So oftentimes I use the can analogy to help people understand how to set up their core best for strength. So in the can analogy, I'm talking about the rib cage being the top and the hips being the bottom. So the pelvic floor and the diaphragm are up on the tops. And then when those two are lined up, so the ovalness of the rib cage and the ovalness of the hips are lined up so the ASIS is even with the front of the ribs, that gets us into what's called the canister position. And I think that cans are a great way to demonstrate it. So we have a full can here. So the top of the can and the bottom of the can are lined up perfectly. We could put any amount of pressure on this and it's not going to go anywhere. So we could think of this as being the strongest way our core can be. So this could be like completely braced for a heavy lift, like a heavy deadlift, wearing a belt. You know, everything is as solid as it can get. But if those two ends weren't lined up properly, it would smash a little bit easier. So honestly, I could stand on top of this if I had great balance and it wouldn't crush down the can. So if we open the can and we let out the liquid, pour this for later. Hear my dogs in the background deciding to walk through all of this. If we open the can, I could still put a fair amount of pressure on this. But if I stood on top of it, if I had the right balance to put an even amount of weight on this, it would probably crush. And this we could think of as maybe not being completely braced, but we're still stronger than if we were not in a good alignment. So what we see a lot in athletes and people in general is an anterior pelvic tilt and sometimes a flaring of the ribs up. So it kind of looks like this position where your chest is out, your ribs kind of stick out, and your butt sticks out from the side. And we could think of that as being kind of like an angled position. So if we had some bends in the can, so think about this as, now this is the front of me and this is the back of me. This is my butt sticking out because I have anterior pelvic tilt. This is my ribs sticking out because I have rib flare. Maybe I'm too much of a chest breather. There's a lot of reasons we could have that. But now if we have this kind of situation and we push down, our core kind of collapses. Pretty easy. There's no way I would be able to stand on a can in that situation. So that's where I talk about getting your hips lined up with your ribs. So automatically, if you kind of just posterior pelvic tilt sitting in your chair and get your ribs down, you're going to feel that like cinching in. And that's just the transverse abdominis taking in some slack, so to speak, and tightening up the core and kind of getting us ready for athletic position. So this is why using that position is where I start with pretty much any type of athletic activity or exercise I do with a patient or client. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to go enjoy this nice Smells Like Bean Spirit from Microphone.